Hi, Lisa Schermerhorn here and the Grassroots Warrior Network, and this is my show where truth lies. And you're in for a surprise because you get to meet another hypnotist. You got two.
Woo, that's a
I
lot.
know, it is a lot. Be careful. So, Tim is a globally respected high performance hypnotist for numerous top achieving business owners, executives, and entrepreneurs. He's written 7 books. I'm like, holy smokes, I've done a couple, but nothing like that. And it includes his best selling book, One Belief Away. I love the name of that. He's also featured in the multi award winning film Zero Limits. We're both in it together. He's got 36 years of experience of having facilitated over 16,000 hypnotherapy sessions. I haven't counted mine. I should go back and look.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Tim is the go-to coach for eliminating anxiety and bad habits, for elevating your performance, or when you feel stuck or nothing else is working. And I'm going to have the link to reach him at, is it indiehypnosis.com?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So, welcome. We met through the movie Zero Limits, so that's been a really amazing experience. How's that been for you?
Yeah, it's been great. And well, first, thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And then we had a wonderful program that we did together for the Zero Limits cast, right? They did the 2 day live Zero Limits living program. And
Yeah.
you and I got to share the stage and do a dual hypnosis session together, which I had never done live with anybody before. And it was fantastic. So I loved it. So I'm happy that we get to spend this time together again.
Yeah, it inspired this podcast because everyone's like, you two are
Yeah.
a dynamic duo. You need to do some stuff together.
Yeah, it was really great. It was really we have a really great chemistry and approach that complements each other. People
Yes.
don't realize how powerful their mind is, and we talk about hypnosis and hypnotherapy, but the magic isn't hypnosis. The magic is your brain, right? The magic is your heart. That you're the the listener there right now. You're the
Yeah.
magic, right? And so we're just unlocking that and helping you to connect with your inner wisdom and your power and the magic that's inside of you. And because we had to do that for ourselves. I had all kind. I know your story. I'm sure Pete, you've shared it many
Yeah.
times, I grew up with a lot of anxiety. A lot of bad things happened to me. And we go through the trials and tribulations of life, and some of those experiences are uplifting, and some of them are very traumatic. And our brain is always trying to make sense of everything, and so my brain. From going through some of the experiences, like my dad getting blown up in a fire and an explosion at a steel mill. He was an electrician. And, when I was 12 years old and he got burned really bad and he made it, even though he had scars. And I remember being 12 and walking through the burn center and hearing people screaming and moaning. And then they wheeled my dad out and he looked like a mummy. He didn't look like my dad anymore. He was all wrapped up in
Wow.
bandages and, incredibly, I just remember bursting out in tears, crying. I mean, it was just so shocking. And so my brain formed these beliefs in my mind that I'm not safe, that bad things could happen at any time. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. And it just caused me to have all this anxiety. And then I developed a bunch of coping strategies that made things worse because that we're really good at trying to avoid pain by doing things that cause more pain.
Yeah.
All our bad habits and coping strategies and
Yeah.
and so it just it led to this pursuit of looking for a cure for anxiety and looking for a way to escape my labels. I was told I had generalized anxiety disorder and I wanted to know how to have general confidence in order. And I spent my
I
whole
love
entire
that.
life figuring out, yeah, how to do that. And by the grace of God, I did. I figured it out from all those sessions, all that trial and error, all that prove it. If you say this
Yeah.
works, prove it, right? And so you and I are both into proof and results,
Right.
and we have a lot of that. So yeah, so I'm excited to spill my best secrets right here today with you.
Well, you know what? It is about proving it. And you know what the sad part that happens oftentimes as hypnotists, and I was an example of it. I went from therapist to therapist to therapist for years, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, and nothing was changing. And I'm not saying anything bad about therapy because it has its place
Mhm.
and they give great coping mechanisms. But what I
Mm.
found was when I finally went to a hypnotist, I went right to the root cause. It takes you
Yes.
because your higher
Yes.
self has the answer to all that. And I think one
Yes.
of the hardest things that people have this misconception of what hypnosis actually is because, they see these, entertainers up on stage making people quack like a duck and do all that. And I would get really frustrated because
Yeah.
people would get scared. And
Yeah.
and it's really one of the first things people should do until except it becomes the last resort for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
and you talk about the power of the mind. When we did that event last week, Dr. Solveig Berg did a meditation with us on teaching people how to bend a spoon with your mind.
Mm.
That's how
Wow.
powerful we
Wow.
are. This is a
Yeah.
stainless steel soup spoon.
Yes.
I can't bend it right now. I could not,
Yeah.
I could never get it back.
Wow. Wow.
But just focusing on that and then bent it. And I've done it with two other people, but that's how powerful our thoughts are.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I mean, Joe Vitale was talking about how he was bending horseshoes, and we've been through experiences where we just didn't think we could do something and then we did, and
Yeah,
it's about removing our limitations. And if we feel like we're stuck and we can't do something, then we can call on the power of our creator and there's no limits there, right? And so we have the ability to manifest our life in ways and to show up with more peace today. We have more ability to do that than we even recognize, than we even realize. The Marines say you're 10 times stronger than you think you are, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And so it's I always tell people that you have treasure inside of you, and it's like a safe, and that safe door just feels like it will not open. Whether it's you can't lose weight, or you are having so many gut issues because of the stress that your hair's falling out, or you feel like you're going to be divorced every day because you keep fighting with your spouse, or you've been through traumas that you have not been able to let go of. They just might have happened 30 years ago, but it feels like it just happened today. Or you're constantly freaking out and stressing over money. There's never enough. Feels like there's never enough, and you're going to lose everything. I mean, these are the situations that are constantly going on in our lives, and
yeah,
it's like you got two numbers of that three-number combination, and if you just had that third number, that safe door would swing right open, and you could access the treasure inside. Well,
yeah,
we spent our lives trying to figure out what that third number is, and we figured it out.
yeah.
And and so I call it unconscious beliefs. I believe that the root, if you just follow it all the way back, you can always find a belief, that is causing the belief that I'm not good enough, that I'm not safe, that you can't trust people, right? That I'm not worthy of love, that I never should have been born to begin with, and nothing ever works out for me. The only luck I have is bad luck. These are all beliefs that are causing you to filter or experience the world in a specific way that reinforces those beliefs. There's an old Jewish quote. It says, you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. And so
I
when
didn't
we
know that was
recognize
Jewish,
that,
but I love that quote because I'm
yeah, that comes
Jewish.
from the Talmud. It comes from the Talmud. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's, a profound quote, and it's true,
Yeah,
because you can't control a lot of, like, I can't control the weather, but I can control how I respond to the weather,
right.
right? So I can be upset, or I can be relieved, or I can be playful, or I can be silly, or I can be serious, I can be resilient, I can put on a coat, I can take off a coat, right?
Yeah,
So we have the ability to respond to whatever shows up. That's why I always say it doesn't matter what shows up. What matters is how you show up. It doesn't matter
exactly.
what's going to happen to you. What matters is what you bring to the situation.
No, it's so true. And I always say, your world, it is true. The world that's around you, the people that you attract, the type of jobs that you attract, your relationships, all of that is a direct reflection of what's going on inside you. So if you have turmoil going on, then you create turmoil outside of you. And that's how you know that it's healed, is that you've actually resolved that. And you know, that between the hypnosis and the power of forgiveness, right? And that was a good point, what Zero Limits was about. I find the power of forgiveness also creates incredible miracles. And so the combination of that and the forgiveness, and people are always like, why am I forgiving someone else when they did that to me?
Hmm.
Right?
Because forgiveness isn't for them. When you forgive someone, it's directly for you. So
Exactly.
Buddha said that to hold a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die.
Yeah.
You're the one holding the poison. So when you forgive someone, it's not for them. They're like, well, if I forgive them, it means that what happened was okay.
Yeah.
No, it means they got away with it. No,
Yeah.
everybody has to deal with their own demons or karma or their creator or the consequences of their actions. Well, if I forgive and forget, I'll get hurt again. No, you're keeping the wisdom. You're just letting go of the negativity. I
Yep.
think Wayne Dyer had the best way of saying this. He said that a trauma is like getting bit by a poisonous snake. The snake bite hurts for sure, but that's not what kills you. It's the poison that's left inside. And our job is to get the poison out. But most
Yeah.
people protect the poison. They're like, I'm not getting rid of this poison. This poison has become my identity. I'm a victim now, or this poison is keeping me from getting hurt again. No, it's just paralyzing you. You should get the poison out and then come back in a new empowered way, what I call
Yeah.
you 2.0.
Yeah. You know what? You say that so eloquently because, I can't tell you how many times when I meet people and I say, I'm a hypnotist and I work with the unconscious mind, and people are like, literally will
Yes,
jump back.
yes,
And,
yes.
people don't realize how often are they in hypnosis on a regular basis? It's a natural
Like so
state.
much.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So much of the time. Every time you daydream, every time you space out, every time you're really stressed out, you're focused on something that's going on. You're imagining worst case scenarios. You're focused only on that situation. Now,
Yeah.
you might not be relaxed, but you're emotionally engaged and you're also very open to suggestion, especially if the suggestions are like around doom and gloom.
Right.
Right. So plus every time before you get out of bed, right before you fall asleep at night, you go into a relaxed state of mind. Zig Ziglar once said, never fall asleep in front of the television because you don't know what garbage is going to get put into your mind. All right. So
Yeah.
we go in and out of hypnosis all the time. Hypnosis is just a fancy word for saying you're getting into a more relaxed state of mind. Your brain waves are slowing down. And as a result, you become more open to suggestion. But just getting someone relaxed and giving them suggestions, I found, is not very effective. It's about as good as cognitive behavioral therapy. It's like cutting the top off of a weed. It's a very good tool, but it's not a solution. It's not a short term. Like what you said, Lisa, these are
Right.
coping strategies. We don't want coping strategies. We want healing, transformation, and then we want to thrive, right?
Right.
And so we want wins. And so we go and we pull the weed out at the root, and then replace it with a flower, and that
Yes.
changes things, and it's sustainable transformation, and that's what we're into.
You know what? That is so, because you want to replace that belief system because the old belief system doesn't work. And one example
Mm-hmm.
I use around money is, money mindset. So many people don't realize that we get programmed from our parents' beliefs. Or let's say, our parents were struggling with money, or someone says, money doesn't grow on trees, or, when's the last time you saw a movie that showed someone who was wealthy, was successful and happy, and their family loved them and people loved them? They're always shown as greedy.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed this picture of a mansion and I asked everyone in the room to tell me about the people in that mansion. And they were all like, oh, they're getting a divorce. They hate each other. Their kids are all on drugs. And I'm like, well, who here wants to make $1 million a year? And everyone raises their hands. And I said, how are you going to attract money if you don't think people with money are good people? And you have an example of someone who you worked with in sales. I think you talked about it in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just taking notes because I'm always taking notes,
Yeah,
always a student, and I love
yeah,
what you're saying here. This is such good stuff. So, uh, so many great insights. So there was a guy named Joe that I started working with, and he was in sales for a national company, and he was really struggling. He was struggling to sell, a few $100,000 worth of products and services, mostly because he was afraid of coming across pushy. right? His dad was very aggressive. They got a divorce when he was younger, and his dad could get violent. And so Joe had this belief that I can't ever be like my dad. And so anything that felt like it was going to come across too strong, he would shut it down, including asking for the sale.
Yeah.
So he was a super nice guy, but he never asked for the sale. So you can't get it if you don't ask for it.
Right.
And so he really struggled. And he struggled in his marriage, and he struggled with, he just attracted people into his life that were not good for him. And so, and because he wasn't standing up for himself, he became a big doormat. Super nice people often become a big doormat. And if you treat yourself poorly, then you're teaching the world how to treat you. And so, if you walk all over yourself, other people are going to do the same thing. So what we did was we upgraded his beliefs. I just helped him heal those wounds from his past. We upgraded the beliefs around his worthiness, and helped him to feel strong and believe in himself, and help him realize that he's his own person and that he can be strong and assertive. And then I started teaching him some sales strategies and rapport skills, and how to be really customer focused instead of sales focused. And as a result, he started building really amazing relationships, and I started calling him the $1 million sales professional. And then, a year later, he had sold $1 million worth of products and services. So I started calling him the multi-million-dollar sales professional. And 3 years later, he had went through the pandemic, and people weren't buying a lot of stuff at that time. And so he just really went all in building relationships, helping customers feel secure, helping them like at a human level to know that they're going to be okay, and they're going to get through this, and their company's going to get through it. And he'll do everything he can with his company to make sure that they get the best deal when they're ready. And then after the pandemic, everybody started buying, and they all went to Joe. And in that 3-year
Wow.
period, he sold $54 million worth of products and services. Changed his life. He got divorced, which his wife left him, but it was the best thing that ever happened to him, because, Joe is attracting new people into his life now. And, is very successful and a very good father. And, and he was so successful in his national company because he was #1 guy now, that they had to change, even how their pay scale, they just had to change everything because he disrupted the whole organization with his
Wow.
success. Everybody wanted to know what he was doing. And he tells you, I changed my beliefs first. I had to
Wow.
change it wasn't just his mindset. It goes deeper than mindset. I have a lot of super high achieving clients, and their mindsets are amazing. It's not a mindset issue. It's a deep unconscious beliefs issue most of the time.
Yeah. It's like, I always say it's like a magnet that's inside of you that's energetically attracting these things. Because you can think
Mm.
here, but it's what you believe at a really deep level. And so it's accessing those unconscious beliefs, because people will say, I don't know what to talk about. I don't remember anything. And I know you could probably even and talk about that as like, you don't have to remember, because your higher self, your unconscious self, has all the answers. So you don't have to be in charge and try and control it.
Yeah, as hypnotists, we have an amazing toolbox, right? And there's
Yeah.
so many talented practitioners that you end up with so many different tools.
Yeah.
So in my experience, my clients are able to go right to those situations. And if they don't go right to the situation where the biggest limiting belief, or what I call your parking brake, that's set in your brain, if they
Yeah.
don't go to it immediately, if you just are relaxed and you just trust that eventually something will come to them, it does.
Yes.
Most hypnotists will panic, if they don't have something that comes up right away. I just relax right in, because I'm totally expecting that something's going to happen. Plus, I got a lot of tools and experience, so I know that I can pivot and find something from it. And if we're halfway through one experience and it's not going anywhere, I'm just going to adjust and go to a different experience. I'm going to grab a different tool,
Yep.
right? So I know that we are going to get those results, because I had to upgrade my beliefs first. I had a lot of fear that I wasn't gonna, what if I didn't know the answer? What if I looked
Yeah.
dumb? What if, I had a lot of issues around money, that why would people pay me or pay me a lot of money, right? Or that it was bad. I'm doing this healing, beautiful work, and then I go charge people and I'm like tainting it. I'm like, that's a silly idea. All I'm doing is keeping myself broke. In
Yeah.
fact, the more people invest into their healing, often the better results they get because there's a belief that you get what you pay for.
That's totally true. And I started out with those same beliefs 25 years ago. And I didn't understand, my own value. And it wasn't until that I could finally own it, but it took practice. When you start to see your clients start to shift and change and all those things start to happen, then, the confidence comes in. And I always say, you know, I like to think I'm a one-hit wonder, right? Sometimes you do have people have those amazing shifts and those epiphanies right there, but it's a process because you took a lifetime to get there. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of detective work. Sometimes I feel like I'm a detective, trying to get to, well, maybe, and I know you don't do this, but the metaphysical stuff, like sometimes it's past life related, sometimes it's inherited ancestral, sometimes it's something that someone doesn't want to let go of. And sometimes you have to take a while to get that person comfortable because if they're so attached to something, it's not my job to make them or your job to force them to get rid of that belief system.
Beautifully said. That's exactly right. This is not a Hail Mary, one session cure all. That is not the point. That's like saying I'm going to
Right.
go to the gym once and walk out with muscles.
Right.
No, you're not. Right?
Yeah.
You can have a significant breakthrough. You can have a transformation that's extraordinary. I've had people that had migraines for 10 years, and in one session, the migraine stopped.
Yeah.
I've had people who had panic attacks and phobias for decades. One session, they stopped. Thousands of people who were addicted to sugar and nicotine and alcohol, and they were able to stop in one session. But we don't just do one session. That's the first step in the process. The second step is like what I do and you do too, is the healing, the forgiveness, right? So in session one, I upgrade the beliefs. In session two, I upgrade the feelings. But that's just the first two steps. Then I have other steps where now I'm giving you new tools and we're giving you new strategies. And then you're right. Sometimes it won't be until maybe the fourth session or the sixth session or maybe the eighth session where all of a sudden they reveal something else that I wasn't even aware of. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, now, and or there's just, layers. And we have lots of stuff that comes up. And so we need to work through that as it comes up. And a lot of times we're not just helping our clients solve a problem and get a result or achieve a goal. A lot of times we become the life coach, right? We're just the success coach. We're someone that once you find someone who it works and you click with them and connect with them, then you keep
Right.
them in your corner, and
Yeah.
it's your trusted advisor that you go through life with. You don't have to be doing sessions every week, but you go through life with someone in your corner that just keeps elevating your life if you want to be someone who plays to win instead of,
Right.
what most of us do, which is, playing not to lose all the time.
Exactly. No, I've helped a professional golf pro
Mm-hmm.
win golfer of the year. Every year he
Mm-hmm.
would get to the third place or second place, but there was a belief system that kept him stuck in that, I'll never get first place or I'm not worthy and deserving. And it is layers. It's multiple because
Yeah.
how many times do people say to you, I would never have connected this issue with this thought or this event
Mm-hmm.
that happened because sometimes they appear completely different. I had an actual psychologist come to me for her golf
Mm-hmm.
game,
Mm-hmm.
and we went back 40 years to abuse that happened to her as a
Mm-hmm.
child, and that was the root cause of her belief system around her golf game. And she's
Almost
like,
always is.
in a
Yeah.
million years, she's like, I never would have put that connection together, but it
Right.
improved her golf game, right?
Yes. Yes. That's why I call them unconscious beliefs,
Yes.
because they're unconscious. You're not aware of them. And Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, once said that the goal in life is to make the unconscious conscious,
Yeah.
or it will rule your life and you will call it fate.
It's so true. And what people don't really realize, especially, that there's this thing that happens when we have what is it with our emotions? Arrested development, right? So
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
happens and suddenly emotionally we're stuck at the age of 15. And there are a lot of people in powerful positions in the world who are emotionally stuck at very young ages, right? with a lot of
Yes, toddler
trauma.
ages.
Yeah, and toddler
Yeah,
ages, and those
yeah,
younger parts of us that were really damaged will make major decisions for us unconsciously. They will pick
yes,
our partners, they will
yes,
pick our jobs. So
yes.
I went through a period of time in my life where because I sustained a lot of abuse, that every job I got, I always had a boss that was mean, mean. I actually won the award for the worst boss. I won an award in a magazine for the worst boss.
Wow,
But
wow.
I kept attracting people, partners, and who would treat me that way. And so
Mhm.
it's very easy to say, "Oh, I'm just a victim." Right? And you get trapped in that victim mentality. And what one of the first things that I had to learn was I had to take responsibility for all of it. And I remember I was
Yeah,
reading a book by Byron Katie, Loving What Is, and I'm like, no, these things happened to me. I'm not, and I remember throwing the book across the room because I didn't want to take responsibility because how could these things be happening to me? How could I be attracting them?
yeah. Well, the belief behind that is that, are you saying this is my fault? Are you saying that I did something like this because I didn't? I was a little kid and this happened to me. How could I be
Right,
attracting that? And so what we're saying is that things happen, but you're not that experience. You're the experiencer. You're more
right,
powerful than that experience. And if you learn to take that experience and turn your pain into purpose, or turn your mess into your message, or you're able to realize that you went through that experience, but it doesn't have to break you. It can make you more powerful. It can make you stronger. It can
right,
cause you to be a diamond in the rough, where right now you're being forged under pressure, but in your adulthood, you're going to be so strong you can cut through steel, right? And that's the message. We shift from victim to
right,
victor,
right.
right? It's not that you weren't a victim, it's just we're shifting so that you don't stay one. And so that's the power of taking charge of your experiences. You're not your thoughts, you're the thinker of your thoughts. You have more power than the thoughts, no matter how relentless they may be, especially the negative ones. But when you have the right tools, you can turn that into a source of love, a source of wisdom, a place of encouragement. And you can do it rapidly, and people have not been taught that. People have been taught that change is difficult, that transformation takes a long time, that you're going to have to dig up every horrible thing that you've ever been through and relive it, which who wants to do that? It sucked the first time you went through it. Why would you want to keep going through it? And so I get it why we would be frustrated and why we would, reject a lot of the pop psychology and personal
Right.
development stuff out there. But it's just simply because we don't understand what it really means. And so that's why you and I are out here sharing our stories, telling our horrible things that happen to us so people can relate and connect. And then, you know, even though we went through that stuff, we can't change it, because if we did, we wouldn't be who we are.
Right.
And we
And
are who we are for, I think, for a really important reason.
yeah, and there's another part to this because a lot of people will say, "Well, I can't be hypnotized, right? So you couldn't do anything for me." And if someone is paranoid enough or doesn't want to change, I
Mm-hmm.
always say I can't sprinkle fairy dust over you. You're going
That's
to do
right.
what you want to do. But
Yes.
there are other tools, and you and I are both involved in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We've
Mm-hmm.
done some work
Yeah.
around there. So if
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
doesn't want to be hypnotized, there's
Yeah.
other tools that are transformative. Tony Robbins is really well known for his
Yeah.
work in NLP. So
Yes.
can you talk a little bit of that and how we can even combine them sometimes?
Yeah. First of all, my direct answer, especially to hypnotherapists in the 21st century, is I don't care if you're hypnotized or not. Right? I don't care if you're in some magical trance or if your fingers come together and touch or not. I could care less. I spend very little time hypnotizing people.
Yeah,
I get them relaxed for 5 minutes and I go right into the healing session. And I
yeah,
find that the results are just as good as when I was spending 30 minutes doing a long induction with deepening and
right.
suggestibility tests.
Yeah,
So I don't really care if they're in a high theta or low theta state, or if they're in somnambulism or any of that stuff anymore. Because I found personally that it does not matter. People are able to go right to what's going
Yep.
on and create breakthroughs immediately. And I've done this with every kind of person, every
Yep.
walk of life from all over the planet. And it is so, if you can't be hypnotized, I don't really care, right? Because of course we know you can, because people do it all the time. But every day it's natural. But why fight it? And why
Right.
use that as a resistance point? Now, if someone doesn't want to change, you can't push a rope. So you're
Right.
right. Move on to someone who's ready. I used to I wanted to save everybody, and now I'm like, that's not my job. Right? And so I'm working with people who are ready. Now there's resistance, but that's just fear. People are just
Right.
afraid that somehow it would get worse. And so that's just where their resistance is coming from. And we can overcome resistance. Now, neurolinguistic programming, neuro is your brain, linguistic is language, and then programming is how you're using language to program your brain. It's really the study of how we create reality. Bandler said it's the study of excellence, right?
Yeah.
It's NLP is what works and why does it work and what's going on in your mind and what can you do to shift what's going on in your mind. So NLP is not a set of tools. It's a way of understanding the world. And then if you understand how it works, anything can become a tool, which is why Richard Bandler was so famous, one of the co-founders of this, of neurolinguistic programming, because he had such behavioral flexibility. He was willing to do whatever it took because he understood the process, that he used everything as a tool. And it's what made him so famous, because he was pretty amazing at producing, remarkable results that people would say is impossible. And he would do
Right.
it. And then you and I have both done that as well. We understand the tools, we understand a lot of how the mind works and human behavior. And so what seems impossible to other people is just another day at the office for you and me.
No, it's
So,
true. It's
yeah.
true. And when you study, it's the study of excellence. It's like there are people who are at the top of their game, and there are other people doing the same thing, but they're not at that same level. So they studied, how do these people think? What is it that motivates them to think at that level and have that kind of success? And what people don't understand is the brain has many different waves. We've got you referred to them before. So beta is where we're at now. This is where you go to your therapist and you're talking about things on a conscious level. When you go into meditation, a guided meditation, anything like that, you're dropping, or a creative state, you're going right into alpha. And you can make changes in alpha, and it's just a daydream state. And oftentimes you're in that state when you're driving, right? People all of a sudden, like, I don't even remember getting here. How did I get
Mm-hmm.
here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, we go through these brainwave states. It's not like it's just a steady line. We're dipping and up and down. When you get really excited, you're in high beta. When you get really zoned out, you're in lower alpha. When you're daydreaming, you get into theta, which is rapid eye movement, and when you're dreaming and going through, and then delta, where you're totally out and just kind of that's where they want you when they're doing surgery or something like that, and they use anesthesia, which people think hypnosis is the same thing. Are you going to put me under? No, this isn't anesthesia, right? This is just what the language that we pick up from movies and
Yeah,
stage shows, which is the entertainment side, which is real, but it's like a magic trick. You look like it's control, but it's something totally different underneath. It's more
yeah.
behavior modification. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't even know how to do that stuff. I watch them in awe when they're up there making people do all those things because I don't even, to me, um, obviously, unconsciously, you have to want to participate because they can't make people do that unless they don't. But
yeah.
it's so interesting. But when you get into the different brain waves, when you're a baby, when you're young, at 2 or 3, your natural brain state is in delta, and you're moving into theta as toddler. So this information is all stored at very deep levels of your mind. That's why when you're at beta, you can't access that information, correct?
Yes, yeah, yeah. That's why we call it the unconscious mind. And we say there's two parts of our mind, which is this: maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Where this is just how we're labeling it based on our, limited understanding of how the mind really works. But we're using some labels, and so yeah, that's why it makes sense. There's an old quote. It says, "When you learn to go within, you never go without." And
Right.
we're so busy worrying about everything all the time and analytically, logically trying to figure it all out and talk ourselves into feeling safe, instead of getting quiet and stop staying busy and just sit down and get quiet and go within. And people try to do that with meditation, but it's very hard to let go of attachments and quiet your mind, until you get better at it. Then it becomes easier. But I always say that hypnosis is more goal oriented. It's like meditation on steroids. Let's
Right.
go in there and get the results right away.
Right. Because making that people will say, well, how can you make me change my thoughts about something? It's like, how's this working for you? It's like I have
Yeah.
this thought, and then it's like, okay, let's try. What if you change the way you thought about something? And oftentimes people will say, like, I feel like I have a new set of glasses on, like I'm seeing the world from a whole new place. There's this light that goes on when people make that shift. And I'm sure you have that happen every day with your clients. You had one client you talked about did with the weight loss, in the movie, and you showed the photos, the before and after. That was remarkable.
Yeah, I have a lot of those successes, with weight loss. When I first started my career, I focused mainly on weight loss and quitting smoking because that's what I thought you did as a hypnotist. And
Right,
plus, I had several family members that died from type 2 diabetes. And so I
right,
wanted to figure out a solution because most of the solutions were not very good. A lot of the diets and programs like that weren't working. And then there was a book in the 70s called "It's Not What You're Eating, It's What's Eating You." And so I thought, well, maybe if I go and instead of trying to hypnotize someone to eat more salad, we go and we find those beliefs. And I found that it had to do with self love.
right,
Most people had a lot of issues with feeling worthy of taking care of themselves, or a lot of women still, are programmed to believe that, putting yourself first or taking care of yourself is a sin, or it makes you a bad
right,
person, or you're, greedy, or whatever it may be. Selfish would be more
right.
the word, selfish, and
Selfish,
that's
yes.
ridiculous. Yeah, and that's
Yeah, because I
ridiculous.
was like, we're
So
here for the self, but a lot of people will create this protection
yes,
layer around
yes.
them. I find that most people who have been abused and had some
Hmm.
kind of major trauma,
Hmm.
especially women, will allow themselves to get really large, and the yo-yo dieting and all of
Yeah,
that, that it's every single one of those people have come to me. They say, I already know how to eat.
yeah,
I've lost 100 pounds, I've gained 150 back. I've
yeah,
lost 50
yeah,
pounds or I've lost 10 pounds and I've gained it all back.
yeah.
So, those programs are great from telling you how to eat, but unless you get to the root cause of why that little
Yeah.
girl or that little boy, right?
Yes, yeah. My clients would say, I need the head part of weight loss. I could write my own book on
Yeah,
how to lose weight. And so you're exactly right. And so if your extra weight is protecting you
yeah,
at some subconscious level, if you believe that you're not worthy of being taken care of or taking care of yourself, if you don't feel like, you're a priority, if you're not looking at this as an act of self love, then you won't be able to keep the results, even if you're strong enough to get them.
right.
So, because there's a values conflict inside. One part of you wants to be healthier and feel good about yourself, and the other part doesn't feel like you're allowed to or worthy of taking care of yourself. And so that part is going to sabotage because you can't fight your own brain forever. And you're going to go back to your original programming. If you want to know how your brain is programmed, look at your life. If you want a different life or a different way of showing up, then you got to change your programming in here. And we're
Yeah,
experts at doing that. We're very good at upgrading brain software. And so Kathleen, she had an issue with her dad where her dad never made her feel like she was worthy of his love. And so she didn't feel like she was worthy of love. So every time she tried to take care of herself, she would blow it. And so she was 300 pounds. She came to me. She said, can you hypnotize me to be a happy fat person because it's impossible to lose weight? Then she started crying, and I knew that that's not what she wanted.
yeah,
And what she wanted was to be a healthier person in a right sized body for her, right? And feel happy and peaceful and loved inside. And so we upgraded the beliefs, and then we upgraded her strategies for success. And within 10 months, she had lost 144 pounds. And that was 9 years ago. We've stayed in touch. And so for 9 years, she has thin and healthy. In fact, there was a time where I had to hypnotize her again to stop losing weight because she was exercising twice a day because she loved it and she was getting too thin,
Wow.
right? And so we had to actually hypnotize her to put on some weight, which is hilarious for someone who was 300 pounds. So, and I have I have 100 stories like that. So there's, uh, you can do it. It doesn't matter if it's with your marriage or your money or your self-esteem or your confidence or your money, your marriage, right? Your past. It doesn't really matter. It all comes down to the same stuff. Your programming, your beliefs, the habits that are
Yeah.
being stored in your subconscious mind, and that can be upgraded, and it can be upgraded in a way that's fun, that's enjoyable, and that allows you to get the most out of your life because this is the life we have here now. You might have more lives, but this is the one that I'm aware of, and we want to make the most of it.
Awesome. Anything that we didn't talk about that you have coming up, any classes or anything, or just you want to send people to your website?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you need help, because there are some clients of mine that want to do more of the ancestral healing, right, and more of the past life work, and so I'm just
Right,
sending them right over to you because that's your
exactly.
expertise. So if you're working with someone who needs some extra tips, or they're wanting to break into the corporate work or something like
Yeah.
that, uh, you know, um, then you can visit me at indiehypnosis.com. If you're interested about learning more about those stage hypnosis secrets, because I did that early in my career, then I did a video on hypnosis, stage hypnosis secrets revealed. It's on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tim Scher. And I spilled all the secrets. This is what it actually is. This is why it works. This is what we're actually doing. So if you go up and you do Tim Scher and stage hypnosis, that should pop up
I'm going to
and
watch
you
that
can
because
learn.
I've always wanted to learn that.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating for understanding human behavior and how to get people to like you and trust you immediately and how to move people around based on how suggestible they are. And then you just take
Wow.
them through skits, And then, of course, it's not like, you got to remember, people already have these expectations. They're volunteering to do this. If they're not going to
Right.
be a good fit, you send them back into the audience. And then the ones that are there, they're going to do whatever you say, as long as you are, limits and you respect those limits, and you protect them. You don't just try to make
Right.
them totally humiliate themselves so that you can get some laughs, which there are people that do that,
Right.
right? So there are the unethicals everywhere in every business.
Exactly.
So, but the uh, on the other hand, stage hypnosis has kept our industry alive because people still know hypnosis today because of all the hypnosis shows and all the demonstrations and
Right.
all the street, hypnosis and everything else. And so, kudos to the people that are doing the entertainment. They can make you laugh like crazy, but they don't know how to help you stop smoking and stuff like
No.
that. That's not
No.
really their training. They'll sell you a CD that they recorded from a script they got from ChatGPT, but that's that's not going to do it.
So if people want to read any of your books, are they available on your website or they go on Amazon? They want to
Yeah, if
know
you go to
more?
indiehypnosis.com or if you go to Amazon, those are the best places to get it.
Okay.
And yeah, so check it out. I got a cool newsletter every Sunday. I send out a really powerful story. I'm really focusing on helping business owners and high performing entrepreneurs, but anybody will gain value if you're looking for to have more inner peace in your life and you want the most cutting edge strategies for how to use the power of your mind to create your life by design, and then come check us out.
Awesome. This was so much fun. It went so fast, and I so appreciate you and all you do. And yeah, please go check out Tim and all that he does. He's amazing. And thank you again. I so appreciate you.
Yeah, you too, Lisa. Thank you so much. This was really fun.
Thank you.